Okay, hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. And I know a lot of people in 2013 or at least 2014 are really getting into the whole podcast game, and a lot of people don't understand where to podcast. If you want to do an audio podcast or a video podcast, I'm just shooting on a Microsoft Live Cinema camera with a blue Snowball microphone that I got for like $40. It's just a plug and play. You just plug it into your computer. And if you just want to do audio, you can use like Audacity, which does pretty good audio. You can also use my favorite audio program, which is WavePad Sound Editor. It works, and it works well. It doesn't take any time to learn the program. Pretty much, it's basically what it is. You edit your audio, and then you can upload it to online, so you can start growing your audience, and you can edit your audio. But if you want to get like an audience and get people interested in what you're talking about, the best place that I found is a website called Spreaker.com. And what Spreaker.com is, it basically has an interface where you can actually go on live anytime you want, and you can build an audience. I got about 700 views on there, and people do listen to my podcast. But I'll say this, guys. You can get Spreaker.com for your mobile device, and you're going to think, well, how do you talk into your mobile device without like a microphone? You can just pick up your phone. Let's say you're out and about or you're traveling, and you can just talk into your phone like this, and Spreaker.com will record it and upload it. Or you can upload raw files that you have edited onto your computer. So it could be like MP3, Windows audio files, AA files, whatever the I think iPhones record at. But Spreaker.com does a very tremendously good job. It's a free application. The free version gets you 10 hours of recording, so you can get like 30-minute episodes, right? Up to 10 hours. So that's a long time. You can do like 30 episodes before you hit your cap. And after that, you have to pay. And the paid features are, you get like an hour of podcasting, which is an hour is a very long time, ladies and gentlemen. But the good thing about Spreaker.com is, and I'll say this, I'm not endorsed by Spreaker. I'm just giving you an example from what I've known. And Spreaker allows you to automatically upload your podcast to YouTube, to SoundCloud, to Facebook, to Twitter. You can automatically, every time you upload it, it will sync it and just send it out. So you really don't have to be worrying about it. And you can send it to YouTube, and then YouTube, on the YouTube player, it'll have like just a video, and it'll say Spreaker.com, and it'll have like the name of your podcast and the name of your video. Like if your podcast is called, like mine is, it's Trevor's MMA, because my podcast is a lot about MMA, but it's more nowadays about anything and everything I want to talk about. But overall, I think Spreaker does a very good job. You could do like a podcast like Joe Rogan does, just get a nice setup, use something like Google Plus, Ustream, or do something like I'm doing right now, just recording from my web camera's program using my blue Snowball microphone, and you're going to get some good tones. But you want to make sure you have a topic. If you want to just be like a raw talk podcast, like me and my friend Nick do every Friday on my other channel, which will be a link above my head, you guys can click it and check it out. You could be like a photography podcast, or a music podcast, or a sports podcast, where you know exactly what you're talking about. But make sure you guys are very passionate about what your podcast is about. One last thing, Spreaker.com is a great alternative for podcasting, and they allow you to have like commercials. They allow you to have sound effects, so you can have like, let's say, some sort of sound effects to start your podcast, or you can have music play before your podcast. And one other thing is, like I said, you can have music, you can have sound effects, you can record live, or on Spreaker you can record basically not live, and then after you're done recording, you can upload it and it will be on your profile. But when I go to Spreaker.com, I like to be live, so you can actually have people viewing you and listening to you. So that is one way to do podcasting. Like I said, there's a lot of streaming services out there, or you can just do it like I'm doing right now. But no matter where you're putting your podcast, if it's YouTube, Facebook, MySpace, Friendster, whatever website you're using, or if you're just doing an audio podcast, you have to build an audience. And I think one thing, guys, I'll say this. Coming from audio podcasting only that Spreaker.com offers, and now going to Google Plus is my primarily source of uploading the podcast with my friend Nick, and I've actually seen my podcast get 10 times the views. I got one video with 1,000 views, another podcast with 300 views, another podcast with 450 views, and my recent podcast with 95 views. And that is 10 times the amount of views I was getting on my audio only podcast. But like I said, Spreaker.com is primarily the way to go. Am I going to probably pay the upgrade eventually to get the full features? Yeah. And if you have more than one microphone, like if you had a soundboard and you plugged into your computer, you can have 2 or 3 people on Spreaker.com talking through their microphones. So if you want to start out podcasting, I would recommend getting a cheap microphone like this, which is the Blue Snowball microphone it's the Blue Snowball Ice is what it is. The Blue Snowball, there's different Snowballs. There's a Snowball and then the Snowball Ice. The Snowball Ice is like their lower end model, because the Blue Snowball has features in the back for dynamic range, for cardioid, for different sort of microphones. But in the end, get a nice USB microphone. This one was like $40. I would recommend getting the Blue Snowball mic, getting the Samsung, it's Samsung, not Samsung, Samsung C1CU. If you use that microphone to its full potential, you can get some pretty good tones. And the Blue Yeti. Every time I hear people use the Blue Yeti, it sounds tremendously great. And you can get up to more expensive microphones like the Audio-Technica A2020. I think that's what it's called. And you can get the Rode podcasting mic. Those are when you're starting to spend $200-300. You can get the Blue Spark. I'm not exactly sure if that's right, but I'll put a link in the description box of some microphones that you guys can use. And with that being said, this is some tips and things of what I've been coming over from podcasting, because I don't know, man. Ever since I got into Joe Rogan's podcast, Stone Cold Steve Austin's podcast, and even listening to some people on YouTube, such as Ray William Johnson does a podcast, it's just a way to express yourself, speak your mind, talk about anything and everything. And I know I started a podcast just about MMA and sports, but that limits you, man. I want to be able to talk about anything and everything, and if people love it, they love it. If they don't, they don't. But if you guys ever want to send us questions, hit us up on my Raw Talk podcast on the Trevor Pitts on YouTube.com. There will be a link above my head. And just check it out, man. Ask us questions. We want it to be more of a viewer podcast, not just us talking about some hot topics. You know, we want to integrate you cats into the podcast. It makes it more enjoyable for us, more enjoyable for you. And with that being said, this is just another podcast, and I'll definitely talk to you guys next time. And this is pretty much how I do my podcast, but like I said, I do it over Google Plus. And you want to have headphones, because the headphones will monitor your audio, and you never want your audio to be peaking. And one reason why I really got into podcasting, true, because I went to digital audio and production. I studied that in college, and this is fascinating. This kind of stuff. It's like broadcasting. It's like kind of like you're on the radio and people are listening to you and want to listen. I actually thought when I heard Joe Rogan podcast for the first time, I was like, wow, people sit here and listen to you talk for like an hour and a half, and people do. He gets like 3 or 4 1,000 views every time he does a live broadcast. So before this video gets too long and me just rambling, try Spreaker.com. I'll put it in the description box so you guys can check that out. And like I said, I'm not sponsored by him. It's just a free application that I stumbled across by searching in the Apple App Store. The damn thing works, and it works well. So Spreaker.com, if you're actually watching this video, why don't you sponsor a brother? I use your product all the time. I give it a 10 out of 10. I love it. It does what it's supposed to do, and I love your sound effects.